Hi, everyone. Welcome to an emergency high pressure podcast. My name is Patrick Zahn. I'm an air quality meteorologist with Sonoma Technology, and I'm here with my colleague, Jeff Beamish.
Hi, everyone. Jeff Beamish, air quality forecaster with Sonoma Technology, and we are discussing the unprecedented August wildfire event that is unfolding here across Northern California. So, we wanted to do this emergency high pressure podcast because we want to hit on three separate topics in relation to what's happening right now. Number one, how we got to this point with all of these blazes across Northern California. Second, we want to let you know what's happening right now and what may transpire in the short term through the first half of the weekend. And then finally, we also want to discuss what could be a new fire threat developing heading into early next week, and if there's any similarities to what we saw earlier in the week with this first round of dry lightning and the subsequent wildfires.
Yeah, Jeff, so I want to talk a little bit how we got to where we are now with a number of large fires across all of Northern California. So last Sunday, we had really an unprecedented lightning event that was fed by tropical moisture, upper level low pressure, and really high surface temperatures that all mixed together to create a very convective atmosphere that led to a lot of lightning. And this map right here shows in a 24-hour period, I think the night of, it was last Sunday, the number of lightning strikes across Northern California. So there were, I think, several thousand lightning strikes. And the thing to note is that most of this lightning was not associated with significant rain that fell all the way to the surface. It was dry lightning, and that's especially dangerous for fire and fire concerns. So, Jeff, I wanted you to talk a little bit about this. This was a tweet that you issued.
Yeah, this is inside the mind of a meteorologist at about 7 o'clock on a Sunday morning. Just to speak to how rare this event was, the National Weather Service, very early on Sunday morning on the 16th, they issued a severe thunderstorm warning for the entire Bay Area from Santa Rosa down to San Francisco, Oakland, San Jose, and included Santa Cruz. And the reason for the severe thunderstorm warning was the fact that because of the dry lightning situation, the fact there wasn't a lot of rain, we were getting very gusty downburst winds up to about 75 miles per hour. So not a lot of rainfall, a lot of lightning and gusty winds, and it really made for a very volatile wildfire situation across Northern California. Patrick, one thing I want to do is show the upper air data that we received on Sunday morning, the 16th, from Oakland. Now, these are weather balloons that are released twice a day in Oakland, 5 in the morning and 5 in the evening. These balloons have a package of instruments that measure temperature, moisture, and wind. The one thing I want to focus on here with this upper air profile is the red line. That's the temperature profile from the surface through the upper levels of the atmosphere. And then that green line, that's the dew point profile, the level of moisture through the atmosphere. And I'm glad that you're zooming in on this, Patrick. Thank you much for doing that. So a couple things I want to point out here. Why did we have dry lightning? We certainly had the moisture from what was a tropical storm off Baja California. So that remnant moisture streamed in, interacting with a trough off the California coast. Notice how close together the temperature and dew point profile are from about 10,000 feet in the atmosphere all the way up to about 30 to 50,000 feet in the atmosphere. That indicates a saturated layer of air. And that is where we were seeing at least the initiation for these thunderstorms to develop. However, as that rain fell from these high base thunderstorms, it was falling into a very dry layer of air at the lower levels of the atmosphere. Notice how far apart the red line and the green line are. Again, the red line temperature profile, the green line the dew point profile. As the rain was falling, it was evaporating, wasn't really reaching the ground. Instead, we got a lot of lightning and the current situation that we're in at the present moment.
Right, so several thousand lightning strikes, and most of that lightning associated with a dry lower atmosphere. So along with the high surface temperatures and a lot of fuels, then that was able to spark a lot of fires. So the next graphic I want to show, this is a map of what we call the Hazard Mapping System, or HMS, fire detections on August 17th. And I'm actually, well, first, it's noteworthy just the number of fires that were already ignited across Central and Northern California. as I step through each day, I'm going to just highlight how much fire spread there was. And it takes a little bit of time to load here. But the one fire that we want to focus on, and Jeff will mention the other fires a little bit too, but this complex just north of Napa, that's really going to cause a lot of problems. And I'm going to step forward just a couple more days. You can see really rapid spread on the 19th as soon as this loads. And that was fed by some northwesterly winds. So you had very dry conditions. The fires were already ignited. And then you had a little bit of wind on top of that. Now, this wasn't a major windstorm event, but it was enough wind to really cause rapid spread of all of these fires. So you can see now all the growth of a number of fire complexes. And I'm going to step forward just a couple more days. This is the 20th. Loading, give it a second. So now we've got even more fire spread, and we haven't even talked about the smoke yet, but just really setting the stage for a lot of fire activity. So now I'm going to shift gears a little bit and actually look at the smoke graphic for today. So hopefully this comes through on the video. But each of these fire complexes is producing a large amount of smoke, especially the complex north of Napa. And that smoke is gradually getting transported to the east and right into the Central Valley. So the whole Central Valley of Northern California, including Sacramento County and up into the Sierra foothills, is just really getting inundated with smoke. And it's causing really poor air quality throughout the region. So I'm going to shift gears now to talk about the air quality observations. So I'm going to remove the fires on here and really just focus on some of the latest air quality. So these are PM 2.5 concentrations measured each hour, and each observation shows the concentration in micrograms per meter cubed, and that's a 1 hour average. So you can see, there are a few sites along the coast that aren't getting hit with a lot of smoke, but as soon as you move inland, there is really bad air quality extending from the East Bay, really across the valley and into the Sierra Nevada foothills. So one thing I did want to highlight, this is today's concentrations. I want to go back about 8 hours and show you what was going on. So this was a really interesting situation this morning. I'm going to toggle back to the satellite imagery. So there was plenty of smoke all the way from the coast into the Central Valley, just blanketing the whole area. But if you go to the air quality observations from this morning, this is about 6 a.m. this morning, you can see low moderate AQI levels. That's sort of the green here, just concentrations in the teens, which was really kind of surprising that the air quality would be that good at the surface. But then if you look here in the foothills, you see those really high concentrations persisted through the night and into the morning. And if we go to back to the current hour, actually, let me go back one. You can see those concentrations were pretty steady at these sites in the foothills. So what that really indicated to us was that the smoke was aloft, which means it was a couple thousand feet above the surface through the morning hours. Again, going back 8 hours. And so the concentrations were low through the morning. But then what happens throughout the day is that surface temperatures increase. You get a little bit of what we call overturning in the lower atmosphere, and that will mix smoke down to the surface. So now you've got much higher concentrations in the Central Valley. Now, since these sites are in the foothills, they're already a couple thousand feet up in elevation. So the smoke layer was pretty consistent there. But through the morning hours, there was a little bit of a transport of a cleaner air mass into the Central Valley just at the surface. So this is a pattern that I think we're going to see not just today, but the next couple of days, where you might see lower concentrations at lower elevations. And then in the afternoon, as it starts to mix, you'll mix that smoke from aloft, the concentrations will spike. So don't be lulled into a sense of complacency if you see better air quality observations in the morning hours, and probably till about noon each day.
Patrick, I'm glad you pointed that out as well. That's something that I experienced at my North Bay location here this morning. We started off very early in the day where air quality was fine, but as the mixing process was happening in the lower levels of the atmosphere, we started to get some of that smoke from aloft down toward the surface. And sure enough, around 10, 11, even noon this afternoon, the air quality for my location here in the North Bay in Sonoma County was very poor. And then the westerly wind started to kick in and started to disperse some of that smoke and push it off to the west toward areas that already have very high concentrations.
Right. So I did want to talk a little bit about how complex transport can be, just looking back at this satellite graphic. So smoke isn't just blown from one point to another. It's also being distributed in three dimensions. So vertically, as we just mentioned, but also throughout the day, the wind direction can change. And you just mentioned some westerly winds. And if we focus on the fire in Sonoma County, you can see that at first the transport was mostly to the south. As some westerly winds kicked in, it pushed that smoke to the east. So this situation can change from hour to hour, as we pointed out with the air quality observations. It's a really volatile air quality situation. So one of the tools that we like to use for predicting air quality, especially during a wildfire event, is called the HRRR model. So this model updates every hour, and it incorporates fire detections from HMS and I think other sources. And it uses those fires to then produce smoke and then model the air quality impacts from that smoke. So if I just step forward through this, actually I want to point out where we should be focusing. So for instance, let's focus on Sacramento County here. This is around noon today. You can see it's red, which actually the concentrations I think are shown at the bottom. That's about 40 to 60 micrograms per meter cube. But then as I step forward into the afternoon, there's a surge of this purple sort of in the northern part of Sacramento County. And now you're getting into about 200 micrograms per meter cubed. At the same time, let me go back. If you look at the small fire in Sonoma County, not very high concentrations here late in the morning, but then again, as it mixes down from aloft, you can see a purple plume spreading down to the southeast. So I'm going to step forward a little more quickly now, and we're looking at this evening at about midnight. But then going into tomorrow morning, let me see. You can see, yeah, sort of the orange color through the delta here and into Sacramento County. And then again, tomorrow afternoon, sort of a resurgence here, but also this transport of cleaner air late tomorrow afternoon through the delta. So that's something that we're going to be watching as air quality forecasters. Is that going to make it in far enough to give a real clean out in Sacramento County? And it does look like it is going to drop concentrations, but then right on its heels, there's another plume. So don't want to get into too much detail here, but it does change rapidly from hour to hour. This is a great model to use, and it's something that we lean heavily on during these fire events. And again, a very rapidly evolving situation. And it depends also on one thing we didn't mention before, depends on fire behavior and how much the fire is spread, whether it's been contained, and how much fuel is available for that fire. So Jeff, any other comments on the HRRR model here?
Yeah, I'm glad that you pointed that out, and also the fact that the HRRR smoke model is one of many tools that we use as air quality meteorologists to create a forecast. We are cautiously optimistic based on what we are seeing with the HRRR that maybe there will be a little bit of a clean out for the Bay Area and for the Sacramento Valley tomorrow. That being said, as Patrick mentioned, it's all dependent on fire behavior. It's dependent on human activity as well. How much can fire crews get some type of containment on the numerous lightning complex fires that are continuing to burn here across the Bay Area? So fingers crossed that maybe we get a little bit of dispersion and a little cleaner air. But right now, I think the status quo moving forward is expect your air quality to be unhealthy for sensitive groups at that AQI level, that code orange AQI level, or worse as we are heading into Saturday and Sunday.
Right. So I want to show one more map here. It's the Air Now fire map. And do you want to talk a little bit about this page?
Yes, this is a great just resource that has been developed by the EPA along with the United States Forest Service. And what this is doing is implementing regulatory air quality monitors that have specific siting that needs to be followed for these air quality stations to report data to the EPA. And you can see that not only with the circles, but also the triangles as well. The triangles denote temporary air quality monitors that feed data into the AirNow system and to the EPA. The squares that you see, and they're a little fainter on your picture here, these are low-cost air quality sensors. A lot of publicity about purple air. This is the purple air monitors that you are seeing right here. It's important to note for these squares that you're seeing right here, for the purple air monitors, these are cited in different situations, meaning there's not one cookie cutter way that you need to set up the monitor. Okay, so we don't quite know how these monitors are set up, but at least we can get a general sense for some different areas what the air quality is like around Santa Rosa, Petaluma, Sacramento, so on and so forth.
Right. So there's always a trade-off, with low-cost sensors, there's more availability of data, but then there are also potential issues with data accuracy. But I think overall it does add value, tremendous value to the overall picture. And this is a great resource through AirNow. It's at fire.airnow.gov.
And one last thing I do want to point out here, Patrick, this is a pilot program that is underway right now with the EPA and United States Forest Service. So they are still, working out some of the kinks that may show up on this. But overall, just from, my general experience working with this over the last couple of days, working with this, meaning observing what we're seeing here on this map, it's generally working fairly well. A very good tool for the general public to access for.
Yeah, and this also has fire detections and smoke plumes on it, so it sort of gives you an overall picture of the smoke and air quality situation. So, lastly, we want to talk a little bit about what is coming up. So, Jeff mentioned, we have potentially another situation coming up this later this weekend, and what that is a tropical storm, I believe, in the Eastern Pacific called Genevieve, which will move up along the coast, and that's now we're entering into another situation where we've got an upper level low pressure system with some low pressure moving up towards Northern California, and that might trigger additional thunderstorms. Jeff, did you want to talk a little bit more about that?
Sure did. And one of the things that stands out to me is, once again, we have a very large upper level high pressure center off to the east. And again, that direct southerly transport of remnant tropical moisture into Northern California. That being said, when we're comparing apples to apples here, as it's looking on this Friday afternoon, it does not look like this scenario that may unfold heading into Sunday and early next week is going to be as widespread an event as what we saw earlier this week on Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday, for a couple of reasons. One of which being, it doesn't look like we'll have as much moisture to work with for these high base thunderstorms to develop. But secondly, it also doesn't look like we have a strong area of low pressure off the California coast to help trigger this convection, this thunderstorm activity. That being said, I don't want people to let their guards down here because the threat is very real. All it takes is one lightning strike to start a big wildfire, and that threat is certainly there, and there is a fire weather watch in effect for much of Northern California starting up on Sunday.
And into Monday, is that right?
I believe it is through Tuesday as well. So a situation that I'll be watching very, very closely as we are getting into early next week.
Right. So we actually forecast for the Sacramento region, and we have issued a forecast for unhealthy PM 2.5 levels. That's fine particles due to the smoke, and it looks like that situation is going to continue through the weekend. Just to give you sort of an overall view of what's happening with air quality. Again, it is dependent on fire behavior. We might get brief periods with some onshore flow that might bring some cleaner air in. But it does look like the smoke situation will persist through the weekend. So with that, I just want to remind people that you can visit us on Twitter at High Pressure Pod. Also, visit sonomatech.com. This is Patrick Zahn for Sonoma Tech and my colleague.
Yep, Jeff Beamish with Sonoma Technology. We appreciate you listening and watching, and we'll see you next time for the next High Pressure Podcast.